he walked up to me out of the blue and he said, "Do you read the Bible?"
Hmm.
And I have a child here with blood in the brain.
Welcome to the Wordsmith Forge Christian Fiction Podcast. I'm Mike Baines, your host. Today's guest didn't set out to be a writer. He set out to live a life, and God used every part of it. From the business world to family struggles that would test any man, to a moment in a hospital cafeteria that he still can't explain. Steve Rogers brings a story that isn't polished for comfort. It's real, lived, and wrestled through. This is one of those conversations where you'll hear what happens when faith moves from Sunday into Monday, and when God takes pain, frustration, even anger, and turns it into something redemptive. So stay with us, because somewhere in Steve's journey, you might recognize a piece of your own. Audience, I'd like you to welcome Steve Rogers to the Wordsmith Forge Christian Fiction Podcast. Steve, we're so happy that you had time to visit us today. And I wonder, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Sure, Mike. My name's Steve Rogers, and I live in Richmond, Virginia. And I am a former business executive. I did all kinds of different things in the business world. And I retired to become a writer, just to put my hand on it and see how it would go. And it's so far worked out reasonably well, but it's safe to say that the experiences I had in life prior to writing really impacted where I've ended up now. And I've had such a blessed life that I love to share about that journey. And I love to share about the times that weren't good, I guess is the way to put it from an earthly sense, and what I learned from those and how my journey has moved forward over the years.
Well, they say write what you know, and generally we write from experience. So, yeah, I like to say that anyone could be an author. You just string some words together, get you a front cover and a back cover, and independently publish it. It's on Amazon, and you're an author.
I agree 100% with that.
but it takes experience and probably a desire to produce a quality product to become a writer. So I think you're in good company with the other male Christian fiction authors I've had on this podcast. So you live around Richmond, Virginia. Have you always lived there?
No, I actually grew up, my wife and I, we both grew up in Massachusetts, about 20 miles north of Boston. And I was an accountant, was the first jobs I had in my career. And the accounting firm I worked for transferred us here in 1988. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we literally thought we would be here for 2 years. We thought that they would either move us or we'd go back home. And so now it is, almost 40 years or 50 years later, and we're still here. And our kids are here, our grandson's here, so we're not going anywhere at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, man makes his plans, and God sets his feet.
And plans are not a good thing with God.
I think he chuckles. He has a sense of humor.
He does.
He says, "Oh, you think you're going to do that, huh?
Yep.
Good luck. It ain't going to happen." Is there someplace close to Richmond that you like to visit, just go there to settle your mind and get your head straight? Besides Washington, D.C., that won't count.
Well, actually, the place that I go to when I want to decompress or think or just relax is Richmond has a botanical garden called Lewis Ginter Botanical Garden, and it's a fantastic place. And I like going there and just walking around the gardens. I like taking my grandson there and walking around with him. And it's a break for me. And the other thing for me is an immediate brain dump for me is if I go fishing anywhere. So I don't do as much as I want to, but I tend to get out and fish, and that is a complete escape for me and a complete change channel for me.
I can understand that. Uh,
Yeah.
Questions that I always ask uh, that help us kind of look into just who this author is. The first one is, what are three of your favorite songs?
Oh, wow. This is going to date me, right? They're all old man songs.
Well,
You know,
they don't make good songs anymore, so you
they
kind of
do
have to
well.
go back to them. And
Like,
the other thing, it's your three favorite songs that you think of right now. Might be different tomorrow.
that's very true. My, I guess that I love Pat Benatar from the '80s. So, "Hit Me With
Yeah,
Your Best Shot" is one of my
yeah,
favorite songs. "American Pie" is one of my favorite songs.
yeah,
And the anything this third one I'm gonna put into like a bucket. Almost anything by Carole King
yeah.
is something that I just really enjoy listening to. And I do listen to some gospel faith based music, but when I'm just looking to put on some music and go, it's something in those genres.
Yeah, interesting. How about your movies? What are the three of your favorite movies?
Oh boy, well, The Godfather is my favorite movie, which says I guess that's true for a lot of men, but Godfather's my favorite movie. Uh, there's a movie that was made in the '80s called Fried Green Tomatoes. Uh,
Yeah.
and I love that movie, and I love the Tom Hanks movie, That Thing You Do, uh,
Mm,
about the rock pop band that became popular in the '60s, and it was a one hit wonder. I love those three movies.
yeah.
I always stop if I'm flipping and those are on. I always stop at one of those.
Well, Steve, if you don't mind, would you share with us your walk with Christ?
Sure. And if I go too long or whatever, feel free to cut me off, but I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version. I grew up in a Catholic household, faith based. My father was actually in the seminary for a while, and then
Hmm.
when he left, he met my mother, and had a family and all that.
Yeah.
Uh, but I always have had a faith. That was never an issue with me. I always believed, uh, and I always was striving to understand it more, I guess. Understand my faith and understand God and understand Jesus and understand what I was supposed to be doing with my time more. And probably somewhere around the early 40s, I got involved with a ministry here in Richmond called Needle's Eye Ministries. And what it was a ministry specifically designed for business people. And it was how you bring Sunday into Monday through Friday in your professional life. You know,
Uh,
how,
uh, Steve, you
yep.
said in the early 40s.
Oh, my early 40s.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
no, that was I should have interpreted that way. So,
No, yeah, right before I went off to the war. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
I thought, boy, he looks good, you know.
No, I'm sorry. In my early 40s, I
Very
got
good.
involved with Needle's Eye Ministries,
Thank
and
you.
that got me involved in Bible study groups and Bible reading and a few years of really just studying the Word. And at the same time around then, there was a lot going on in our personal life. Uh, Outside of the fact I had a really stressful job, but my dad got sick; he passed away.
Ah,
Uh, we had uh, we had to have custody of two nieces for a while because of
mm,
alcoholism, and
yeah,
on another part of the family, just a lot of different things were going on, and there was a lot of stress. And I remember when we came out of the other side of that, realizing that God had walked with us through that, and that strengthened my faith.
yeah.
And when my daughter, I'm going to give you this. This is the story that really accelerated it. Is when my daughter was a senior in high school, our oldest daughter,
Hmm.
she got dropped on her head on a field trip. There were two
Oh,
kids goofing off, and she
yeah.
got dropped on her head and seizures. And
Oh,
she was
my.
about 2 hours from here. They brought her back here in a helicopter, and she had that bleeding on the brain,
Yeah.
and she was in the intensive care unit. So we were we were down there with her. My wife Kathy went home around 6 o'clock because we still had two other kids at home. I stayed, and a really good friend of mine came down to just sit with me for a while. And he's also probably my closest spiritual friend, or almost a spiritual mentor. We would
Yeah.
kind of work together. And in the ICU, they throw you out at 7 o'clock in this particular ICU because it's a shift change. So we're down in the cafeteria, and I'm not embellishing this at all. We're sitting there, and this guy walks up to us, and he's in like custodial type uniform. And I don't know if you ever remember that old TV show, Sanford and Son, but
Yeah.
he looked like the guy Grady in Sanford and Son. So
yeah.
he just walked up to me. He walked up to me out of the blue, and he said, "Do you read the Bible?" And I just kind of looked at him funny, and I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, "God is good," and he walked away. And then he came back maybe 2 minutes later, and he said, "You have a child here with blood in the brain." And I'm like, "Yeah," you know. And he said, "God wants you to read Psalm 91 every day until she's better."
Wow.
So now he tells me my daughter's in there. She's got blood in the brain, and
Yeah.
he specifically says she. So, he left, and my friend who was with me, he had a Bible with me. We read Psalm 91, a Psalm of protection, and I overachieved. I read it. I still pretty much recite it every day to this day. But it was such a profound experience that accelerated my journey more.
I can
And
imagine.
yeah, and I really, at that point, if was ever a little nugget back here about, is there someone in the sky that's doing all this sort of thing? To
Yeah.
oversimplify God, went
Yeah.
away completely. And you mind if I just go a little bit more on?
Oh, please
what's
do.
flow? Okay.
I think this is
Right.
you have the audience on the
Right.
edge of their seats.
Well, and I'm super truncating, obviously, but as a result of that, there were other times when I would get signs or hear from God, and usually when God speaks to me, it's through my gut.
Yeah.
I think in my entire life, if I've ever done anything my gut tells me not to do, I've regretted it, and the reverse of that is true. So
Yeah.
what I did notice, though, was I was stalling as far as moving forward. And what was going on in our family at that point was we, meaning my wife and I, were surrounded by alcoholics and addicts. And this is not a criticism of them. It's truly a disease. But
Right.
it was in our immediate family with a couple of our children. It was with a sister-in-law, a father-in-law, or brother-in-law, my niece, my uncles, who a lot of them were passed at this point, but I had grown up with them as alcoholics. I think they were probably self-medicating after World War II because they all served.
Yep.
But that's neither here nor there. But what I didn't know, because of the burden that was putting on Kathy, my wife, and I, who neither one of us has even the slightest issue with addiction to alcohol or drugs,
Yeah.
was I was getting this lump of anger and frustration and resentment and whatever guilt, whatever words you want to put. And as I look back, I realized it was basically 3 cinder blocks tied to a chain that I was dragging around behind me every day. And that was hindering my spiritual growth because what I was doing was putting that before God. And I would be so frustrated that I wouldn't even read my Bible anymore, or I would start and I'd be like so distracted, I can't do this today.
Yeah.
And I'd close it up. And this is the most interesting part about this for me is when I retired, I told you I retired to begin writing. I was trying to become the next Stephen King. And I believe that the reason I made that decision was I did this stupid mathematical calculation. Stephen King's getting older. They're going to need someone else to fill the void when he stops writing, which is an awful thing to think. Number one, you don't want to imitate another writer, but number two, Stephen King's going to write until the minute he draws his last breath. So it doesn't really, he's never going to retire. But
yeah,
I was writing story. I had serial killers. I was strangling people, dogs dying, time travel. I had all kinds of stuff going on. And it was very violent and very angry narrative that I was writing and dialogue. And it wasn't getting anywhere. I mean, I was probably maybe getting a little better as a writer, but no one was going to buy it. No one was going to read it. My wife would look at me and say, "Is that guy in there somewhere?" After she read a story. Um, but what happened was, it sounds like I'm trying to pitch the books here, but I'm not. Is we were on a flight to Israel in 2017, and somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, this thought went into my head, and it said, I wonder what would happen if I was an alcoholic who had just been released from rehab and I had to take this particular trip. And I invented my character and I journaled in his voice the whole time we were in Israel and wrote little, scenes with him in it and all that. So when I came back, my wife, Kathy, she says, what were you doing over there? I mean, she's seen me journal, but she says, what were you doing? And I told her, and she said, you might have a book there.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's not my genre. Now, if you know my wife, she's the most gentle human being who's ever walked the earth. And so she didn't use these words, but what she said was, you're not published yet. You don't have a genre. And I was like, okay.
Let's tell it like it is.
Exactly. Well, that's what spouses are for, right?
Yeah, I've got one of those.
So I ended up writing the book, and I wrote the whole book. And long story short, I was fortunate enough to find a publisher, and it got published. But what I realized is one day I was preparing to do a book talk, and that thing I was telling you that was in here in my heart was gone.
Oh.
And I had forgiven everybody around me. So the book was basically a therapeutic journal entry for me.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it some more, and I realized when I was doing my Stephen King phase, all I was doing was trying to get that anger out through anger or through violence. And all of a sudden, my spiritual journey picked up again. And then it has accelerated at a tremendous pace since then, as far as me trying to understand what God's will is for my time that I have. I mean, I'm 65. I don't know how much time I have left. You never know.
Oh,
but for whatever time I have left, right?
Yeah.
It could be tomorrow. And
exactly.
It could have been tomorrow when I was 40,
yeah.
And so it was very cathartic for me to do that. And part of my mission now is working with men, primarily, actually all men, because I think it's important that men work with men in the addiction recovery field, but who are affected by, not that they are alcoholics, but they are affected by alcoholics or addicts in their family. That's part of my mission now, is to explain my journey. And I've, in the last, I don't know, maybe year and a half, I've stripped away a lot of work that has nothing to do with that. And so I'm focused on writing, speaking, and working with people that are impacted by alcoholics and addicts. And it's been, and I'm so relaxed talking about it here with you. I'm pretty sure that if, I don't know, 4 years ago we had talked about this, my hands would be clenched and, I'd be going like that. But God has really been, and he taught me to forgive myself through this mess too. Because the other thing is, when you carry that, what I was carrying, that lump, I call it the lump, the big lump. When I was carrying the big lump, whether you mean to or not, the addicts and alcoholics around you know it's there. And one thing I have learned is, regardless of how deep their problem is, or their sickness or their illness, they feel worse about it than you do.
Yeah.
They just can't stop.
Yeah.
For usually chemical reasons, but for whatever reason. And so I was impacting them too. So I apologized to them and made amends. And, although one of them got really mad at me and said, there's nothing to do with you. You didn't do it. But it was important to me. And fortunately today, right now, everybody around us is in recovery.
Excellent.
And, that's right now. That's all I can say.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But I don't know if that gives you a good snapshot of my journey, but it's been just, I'm so grateful that God did all that for me, regardless of how painful it was. I'm very grateful that he brought us through that. Okay.
I know we're going to talk about your books eventually, and this is how it works. We're already
Right.
kind of talking about it,
Oh,
and I think
sure.
that's great. As you were talking, I was thinking of what you had referenced earlier, Psalm 92. Uh,
Well, 91.
well, okay. Well, I read 90. I read 92.
Did I typo was wrong.
Oh,
Sorry about
well, maybe
that.
I was supposed to read
Exactly.
92,
Exactly. That's the way these things work.
where it says they will still bear fruit in their old age.
Yep.
They will stay fresh and green.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I kind of like to think that's what you and I are. I'm
yeah.
sure how fresh and green we are, but I like to think we're bearing fruit, and I know you certainly are. So
it's really important to me that I'm doing something.
Yes.
With the blessings I've been given. I'm not the kind of I can't sit around and, like I told you, I love to fish. I couldn't go fishing 5 days a week. I would, I mean, I have friends who can do stuff like that every day, but I feel like I should be serving God until the last breath. In some form.
I get things in my head, and the problem I have is, am I doing what I'm doing for God, or is it because I enjoy doing it? And I mean, you should enjoy doing work for God, but how's that balance out? Do I enjoy hearing the sound of my own voice?
What a great question. I mean, I don't mean specific to you, specific to all of us.
I understand. Yeah.
And one of the things I have to do is make sure that I'm not doing something to be seen or to be recognized, but I'm doing it because that's where I should be taking those steps in this particular day.
Right.
In this moment, really. And it's that ego thing. It gets in the way of everything. And I really have to make sure I have to really look at my motivation when I decide to do something for that reason.
Yeah, it's right in the middle is where you need to be, because if you go too far left, I'm doing it because I like talking to people. I like to think I'm helping. I feel good about what I'm saying to people. That's one side. The other side is, well, I'm not going to share with people because it might make me look better than I think I should.
All right.
And so somewhere you got to be in the middle to do what you feel good to do, what you think is glorifying God.
Yep.
And it should make you feel good to do that, but not too good. Somewhere in the middle.
It's funny you're saying that, because my recent personal journaling has really focused on how unworthy I am of everything God has done.
Yeah.
And it's been almost, and this is embarrassing to say, but it's been almost a desperate plea for guidance.
Yeah.
That I'm doing what what God would like me to be doing. And I read some of the readings of some of the greats like Billy Graham and Billy Graham and Mother Teresa, and especially Mother Teresa was haunted that she wasn't doing enough.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if Mother Teresa's haunted, I got big problems,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, I don't know how to get past that except to pray about it and keep checking yourself and I like to tell myself it's okay. You are checking with God, and I'm sure you do the same thing. You pray, if I'm going too far one way or the other, please God, rein me in. Let it not be so.
And I pray that, and I also realize, and maybe this is because of some of the things we went through, and everybody goes through stuff. I don't mean like we're unique there,
right?
But God He wastes nothing in your earthly walk.
Yeah.
And so if I get wrapped up in ego, there's a reason for it, and I have to use it to help someone else.
Yeah.
Hiding my shortfalls. That thing I'm very positive God does not want me to be doing.
Yeah.
is hiding my weaknesses or my shortfalls or whatever word you want to use to describe things that I don't do well. But I'm pretty sure I'm very sure about that. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you look back over your life, you can see how God brought you to where you are today.
Yep.
You didn't start out to be a Christian fiction author. But I have a theory that the big decisions we make in life is not what gets you to where you are. It's those little small, inconsequential decisions that you make every day, seemingly doesn't mean anything, but it leads you towards this set of big decisions and forever excludes you from this set of big decisions. So it's not the big decisions. It's those little ones. It's the quiet time.
And small gestures from other people.
Yeah.
I remember way back in the 90s, I was standing outside a hotel and they were bringing my car around. I was traveling on business and this cab driver walked up to me and she said, "Do you need a ride?" I said, "Well, they're bringing my car around." She said, "Okay." And she looked at me and in the most sincere way, she just said, "Have a blessed day." And at that point, I've got 3 kids under the age of 10 and, 30 years left on the mortgage and all that. And I felt this warmth. And here I am, however many years later, I'm talking to you about it. So that small gesture was amazing.
Meant more than you realized at the time, but
and she'll never know, right? She'll never know.
Yeah.
But it's going to carry hopefully through the next generation because maybe I can bring my faith to the next generation.
And I think about Christian fiction authors, male Christian fiction authors. You're a very thin slice of the
it's true.
of the writing public, very slim, and you have to think that it's kind of like God was sorting people out and leading you in different ways, and the people that accept His guidance wind up doing things they never thought they would do.
I didn't even know really that there was a robust Christian fiction market when my wife made that comment about, you're not published yet, you don't have a genre. And I didn't even know, but it's just where God has taken me. And one of the more interesting things to me was what you were saying. It's not all, as I call it, Hallmark romances, which have a real place in the market. And it doesn't mean that it's not real or gritty either. It just means that instead of writing out the F word, you might say, he said something a sailor would say, or he cursed under his breath.
Yeah.
And you may not describe intimacy in detail, but it does happen in these stories.
Yeah.
And
it has to.
Yeah.
It's real life.
Because it's real life. And some of the stuff I've read is pretty hard hitting. And and it has to be. It really does.
The other thing about that is generally our readers have a vivid imagination that fits what the person said or does better than we could write it.
Well, when I first started writing, I went through this whole process about how am I going to, before I fell into the Christian genre.
Yeah.
What about language? What about intimacy? What about violence? And I remember thinking about intimacy saying, okay, if they've never done anything like that, they don't need me telling them what it's like.
No.
And if they have done something like that, they're going to fill in the blank anyways.
Yeah.
So just fade to black. Have 2 people kiss or something and fade to black.
Yep.
And then I made a decision I was never going to write anything that I would be embarrassed to have my mother read. And if you knew my mother, that's probably a wider range than I would be willing to write anyways. But my mother's passed quite a while ago, but she's still in my head every day, and in a good way. And but you have to go through that process as a new writer.
Yeah.
But when it's gratuitous, it's obvious. And when it's gratuitous, I feel like my time's being wasted as a reader. So I try to write without the gratuitous stuff.
Many of our listeners are looking for books that reach boys, men, or entire families. I can figure it out, but tell me how you feel that your books connect with boys and men.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think, well, I know they connect with men because I've had men, I have male readers, I guess. I have male and female readers.
Right.
I think for a boy, it would have to be, someone with a little life under him, maybe 14, 15 years old. Because
or live in a household affected
or live in a household
yeah.
where there's a lot of abuse or alcoholism, substance abuse or alcoholism. And I actually, because my protagonist is a male, and I write in what's called the first person present. You're in his brain the entire time. So it definitely has a male perspective. There are very strong female characters that contribute to the story, but it definitely comes from a male perspective. And I believe that that the two books I have men would relate to very well. And I actually believe that the way my character goes through his spiritual journey, it kind of, I think it would be relevant to people in seeing their own journey.
Yeah.
He's not on fire on day one or anything like that. He's very skeptical. Matter of fact, the first book, the first line is, "There's nothing worse than holy rollers on a roll." And very skeptical man as he goes through this. And I wanted books that men would relate. The thing about books is if it's a decent book, any female reader will probably read it, in almost any scenario. So I tried to get something that men would relate to, Christian fiction men would relate to.
Oftentimes men read the books because his wife or sister or mother has read it and said, "Here, read this."
I had a woman say that to me once.
Yeah.
She said, "I read your book," and then this is her exact words, quote, "I made my husband read it."
And he loved it.
He did like it, yeah.
Yeah, that's how
some people
works.
don't like them, but he liked it. So, it was good.
But you have some good reviews.
Yeah.
I took some liberties here. Into the Room. This person said it's amusing, heartbreaking. I am in awe of authors who can grab me with the first line. And Stephen Rogers is the ranks. I chuckled and dove right in. And of course, that's the nothing worse than holy rollers. So
that was my line.
That does make people chuckle, I think.
Which actually wasn't in the book until about the fourth draft. So.
That's a good addition. Characters are real, relatable, and complex. Great word choice and creative descriptions in the world of Ben Cahill before I even realized I was gone. The history and the faith experiences of each character will resonate with all readers, no matter where they are on life's journey. I sincerely hope we will hear more from this author and these characters. We also have a review from what that person was asking for, your next book. They said 5 out of 5 stars. What a complete story. Ben Cahill is an alcoholic. He thought he'd made peace with God about it during a reluctant trip to Israel, but trying to patch his angry family back together and live a sober life back home isn't working. Ben is wonderfully sarcastic and so relatable because of it. He's benignly abducted by wonderful characters, some holy rollers from the and present, who send him on a pearl itinerary to the island of Iona, a terrific sequel to Into the Room, playing as a standalone novel. So that's pretty impressive reviews.
Those were nice. Yeah, I like that. And
well,
the thing about them is that, or let me rephrase that. The thing I really wanted to make sure I did first and foremost was write a book people wanted to read.
Yeah.
An entertaining book. Then worry about what people walk away with from the story as far as their faith or their life, family or their whatever. And part of that was making Ben Cahill as sarcastic as he is, which is very much like me. I had a friend of my brother's, he read the book and he called me up. He says, "You haven't changed in 40 years." He says, I said, "Thanks, nice."
Well,
but I wanted it entertaining, you know?
One of my questions down the road here is, do you see yourself in any of your characters?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not in his addiction, because I mean, you put a plate of M&Ms in front of me, I'll eat to the bottom of it. So the things that I'm quote unquote addicted to aren't going to tear my family to shreds.
Right.
But in his early cynicism towards some other people of faith, that there's a lot of me in there. And there's a lot of me, the way he starts and stops and thinks and fails and beats himself up when he doesn't do well and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of me in there.
Yeah, as we're talking about the characters in the book, part of that is, are you a planner or a pantser?
Oh, I'm a pantser. And what it's interesting. First thing I do, I mean, I sound like I've written a whole ton of novels, but the two that are published, the one I'm working now and one that's on a shelf back here that'll never see the light of day, is just practice. I spend most of the time before I put a word down on my characters, getting to know them, the main characters. I mean, others pop up as you go, and I always in the end, but I have no idea really what's going to happen in between, and then I just start writing. And characters, I think we're going to have big parts, and other characters kind of drift into the background, and I learn about them as I put them through whatever I put them through. You know, it's awful what we do to these people as authors. I mean, you get these perfectly reasonable people and we, put them in a meat grinder and then expect them to come out, because it's the other thing about Christian fiction. This is not a spoiler. You've got to have at least a hopeful ending, right? You're not going to have the tragic, staring into the abyss ending that you would have in some other writing.
Yeah.
At least I've never seen it. But I've never seen that happen in the Christian genre.
Yeah. There's a saying I like is, it's going to be the end.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's not okay, it's not the end.
And no one knows how it's going to be okay.
No.
But it's interesting too, is I usually, I'm a pantser, but somewhere in the first third of the book, I figure out what that penultimate scene is. And I want to write it right then, but I refuse to. I force myself to write everything to get to that scene.
Yeah.
It's kind of like my through the writing part of the book, the first draft, and then I write that scene. And that's how I keep myself focused as a writer.
So you get to chapter 7 or chapter 11, and all of a sudden one of your characters takes off, and you have to write it to see where he's going. You have to go back to chapter 3 and start leaving some breadcrumbs.
Yep.
So when you get to 7 or 11,
Mike
makes
gets
sense.
Well, it's interesting. There's a character, his name's Daniel, and he's in both books. And he's very prominent in both books. And I really thought he was going to be in one scene. And the guy just kept showing up. He had a real role to fill. So it was really, and he's in the third book too.
Well, some characters, they may not be the protagonist, but they're persistent.
He's always there.
And won't be denied.
He will not be denied, exactly.
In what ways do you feel like perhaps your book sharpens the faith of your readers?
Well, what I'm hoping, the first one is, the title is a giveaway to my personal view on evangelism, which is our job in evangelizing or trying to bring people to God is to get them to step in the room with God. Yeah. And then figure out what to do with them.
Right.
It's not my place to judge them or tell them how they're living their life or anything like that. What I hope, both books, is an understanding that you don't have to do it alone, because there's a lot of community in both these books. And the understanding that you just have to take a step at a time in your journey of faith. Well, journey of recovery too. And in your journey of faith, it's one step at a time, and you're going to go forward, and you're going to fail, and you're going to drop back. And it's okay to get mad at God and argue with God. There's a book where he's standing on the Scottish island screaming at God through a rainstorm, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I want that their journey doesn't have to be instantaneous, and it probably won't be instantaneous. I don't think it's ever been instantaneous. Desert for 40 days, right?
Yeah.
So it's never instantaneous, so that it's okay to be patient and rely on those people around you who can, but I hope they pull away from these.
There's a thought that you have to be capable of harm to be able to do good deeds. If you can't do great harm, just kind of milquetoast, you're just
right.
Yes. And so I think that's what we need to put in our characters, someone that is of doing something horrible, and maybe they do.
And my guy did. And that's the precipitating event that led to everything, which you learn about in the book, was not a good thing at all. And he's ashamed of it. But it was a turning point, I guess, for him. I don't want to give it away, though.
No, you don't. Please don't. Do you as a ministry, a mission, or a message, and how so?
I consider it my writing, and I'm going to bundle. I do the speaking I do when I get an opportunity to do it, and working with the men I work with. I consider all that, and I believe the writing is a ministry in the sense that the book might have some people with their faith or what's going on in their life with either addictions or other people's addictions, and some ideas about how to take the first steps away from it. And it's very transparent in there. Felt comes through some of the characters, and I want people to know that we have that pain, and it's okay to have that pain. And life is messy, and human life is messy. Just there's no. It's like on topic, but I hear these people say, "I never had any problem with my teenagers," and I'm like,
"No,
well, you're lying or you're blissfully unaware. It's one of the two, right?" And so I really I consider it a ministry because it's my way of bringing my faith to people. And when I get a chance to speak, which I love to do more speaking, I don't do as much as I want, but I'm very transparent about and what God has taught me in my faith, and what my writing has taught me about my faith and about myself.
Yeah.
And I think people hearing, for lack of a better, regular people express that they struggle, being transparent about that, because there's this feeling that a Christian household is in the background and everything's smooth as silk and all that, and it's never. It's just a question of how you react to what's happening in the house or in the world or wherever, whatever venue you're in. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I believe.
Yeah. No. Was there a Christian author that shaped you early?
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, Francine Rivers,
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Really impacted me because I believe she's the gold standard for writing a book that anyone can enjoy. You're in the faith or not. But Francine Rivers' impact on me, that this legs or some reality to it, I guess is the way to.
Yeah.
And in the nonfiction side, Max Lucado
Oh, yeah.
had the reason he had a massive impact because his books always of, Joe down the street went through this. And then he gets into something about the Apostle Paul or whatever he's writing. It really was relatable to me. And both of those made me want, when I first decided that I was going to take all those weird to a book, it was that I wanted to be able to relate to what they were seeing or reading. The two that had the biggest influence on me. Now, there's a woman named Anne who wrote a book called Bird by Bird, which is, and she's in recovery and she's a believer. Her books are not Christian, but the way she writes is, I don't try to copy her because she doesn't copy anybody, but I would like to think that maybe someone who now, I want to be very careful. I am in no form comparing myself to her. She's one of the giants of writing today. That's the kind of writing that I try to strive for. So she had a big influence. Well, and one of the things that is that I could be making a significant impact on somebody like that woman who said, have a blessed day. And my job might be simply to bring someone out. And when I default to John the Baptist, who with an ego could have made himself almost the Messiah.
Yeah.
And he just accepted his role. It's really important to me that as much as possible, whatever role I have.
Sometimes that's hard to figure out and accept.
It's brutal.
But,
especially for an American, because we're just wired. We are so wired to reach and to be recognized,
Can you one sentence, perhaps, if someone was, why should I read your book?
Boy, I prepped. You're going to throw that one at me. I think why should you read my book would be to discover one man's journey to God and how it potentially could relate to you.
Yeah.
I would say senses. Well, and this is an aspirational. I think you'll enjoy the story.
Sure.
That actually should be the first story and see one man's journey to repentance, his way with the Lord. I ever got was on the second book, A Year in the Room, where forever, but he told me he thought he was a better person because he read the book. It was like, and as far as I was concerned, that was all I needed to hear.
Exactly.
I'm done. And let's go. But I just try to make it relate. I tried to make them relatable. And it's interesting. I got a review from my reviews are by Christian readers, but I got one. It was a secular magazine in town. I just called them up one day and I said, okay. And, he did strong characters in the first book because he said he thought they were.
Yeah.
And I tried to explain to him, well, if I wrote a book I could write a book about each one of them where they go through just my guy Ben went through. And then they ended up where their job is to help Ben. But they've been, you've had people in crazy college lifestyles, other alcoholics, people before he converted or was saved, looking into CEOs' accounts to get business information. And, I just made him. I'd never done that. I went a business career, but I never did that. But it was, hopefully they can relate to the failings these people had in the past. Everyone has them. Everybody. Everyone I've ever known has them. And so I try to make it relatable.
Well, yeah. I don't know any that hasn't. None of my family has been perfect.
And you can fix them too, you know. You
can only listen to me.
Don't forget that. You can fix them.
Just listen.
Oh, God. One 5-minute track.
Too.
It's true.
Take my name off the family tree. Is there a way you like to engage with your?
Well, I love when people get a hold of me, and if they go to my website, Steven-Rogers, ROGERS, you can contact me through the website. People reach out and want to talk about the books, or I've had one or two just want to talk to me about my experiencing or living with addiction and alcoholism. But I also or community groups, whoever, and I can do them by Zoom. So So more than happy if people want to. One of the weird people that really enjoys public speaking. I don't know why, but I love it, and so I can be as faith-based or secular as they want, because they're just about humanity. They're not. But getting in touch with me and just I love talking to people one-on-one. If I'm in from Massachusetts, and my brother took me over to this woman who lives in a nursing home who read my book. And we chatted about him for a while, and it was just wonderful. I don't know if this is true for every author, but it's humbling to me that someone wants to read something I wrote. I kind of want to understand why. And authors think their work isn't that good. Well, that we all think. I walked upstairs last night, third book in this series, and I said to him, "Why this book stinks?" I'm just, and then I thought of something that night. I'm back on track. Engage with people and talk about the books or writing. There's about how I found a publisher, and I wanted someone else to think the books were good enough. So how did and how did that happen? I loved.
It's hard to find someone that will actually work
brutal.
For and get it sold.
Yeah. And so much, right? The marketing.
Most authors are not marketers.
No. But I'm one of the weird ones. But I still, all the work I do, my readership is Virginia and Massachusetts. Other places, but although interesting, I did have someone from Iowa, 50 copies of each book for a prison ministry out there.
Wow.
Libraries out there that have my books in them, and I thought that was great. They offered to go out there and speak if they want me to, and so but that was really awesome. Yeah.
Well, I can see why that recovery. I think I'm saying that right. Those groups
You know what? It's interesting too is when you start going through this, like participator in Al-Anon, with the AA, you go in and everything's anonymous. People in there that I mean, really going on, and you leave it in that room. It's everywhere. People are really.
Well, Steve, this has been a great immensely. As message you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yeah, I want to talk to people that, I guess, are surrounded by or have addiction family, and that is that resources out there that can help you, whether it's 12 recovery organizations or counseling, that the person that is can come out of that.
Yeah.
And frequently, it's a hard journey, but it happens in this walk. And about it, reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk to them about it.
Can we have a word of prayer? Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for angels for giving us gifts endowed us with. And we thank you for Steve, experiences and his talents. Teaches other people, raises them up higher than they thought they. And we know that you deserve all. Empty vessels waiting for you to fill us and help us. Lord, we just ask you.
Amen. Thank you.
I hope
Thank you very much, Mike. This was wonderful.
I really appreciate it, and I wouldn't have a podcast. So you make it.
Okay.
God be with you. Wonderful things, and may there always. That's a fish. Not
a fish.
Not a log salmon or anything like that. Bless you too. What a power. Something that stands out in his story. God does not the frustration, not the anger. They went sideways. He uses all of it. And from carrying that lump of resistance, a reminder that sometimes the very thing is the thing God will use to set. That's the question we all walk away with today. To do with what I've been carrying. Something to think about. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and to hear it. And comment. I read them and share them with Steve. Respond. Thanks for Christian fiction and conversations like life. They're about walk and truth. This is Mike Bain.